when it comes to tradies, you hear a lot of stories about cowboys and sharks. And me personally, as a gardener, I've heard so many times from my clients directly that, they looked for a gardener previously, they booked him in, everything was fine, just to have them cancel without even saying anything, just to have them not show up, you know what I mean, and just leave them hanging dry. And I hear so many of these tales, so many stories, that when I started this venture a few years ago, doing gardening, I actually wanted to be different to all that and set a different standard. And I know garden virtuosos, which is our name. Virtuoso means, to be very proficient at a tool, usually a musical instrument. But in my case, I like the word virtue. That's within virtuoso. So my motto was, you can't spell virtuoso without virtue. And the idea of that is that, we are fair, we are honest, and we do good work for a good price. All right. So I've prided myself on that. I've prided myself on being different from all those traders that I hear all these tales about. You know. But even then, I've had quite a few experiences over the last few years, and I've heard from some friends of mine who've had similar experiences, regarding particular clients having very high expectations. Particularly clients thinking that they're being ripped off when they're actually not. They just don't get where the money's going. They don't see it. They don't understand that certain things take time. Certain things have overheads. Regardless, they'll just think they're being ripped off. Right? So that's what I'm starting to think now, that maybe... Oh, excuse me. Alright, and we're back. So this leads me to think that maybe... when I hear about all these different people saying they're being ripped off, talking about sharks and cowboys, maybe half of the time, it actually isn't the tradie. And maybe half the time, it's the actual client, like I said, having high expectations and not knowing what the fuck they're talking about. So, I personally had one client, won't mention any names, but I got her about over a year ago and visited a place once a month for a full day. I charged $55 an hour, which anyone in the gardening business would understand is a fair rate. It's an average rate. There's a lot of people out there charging a lot more than that, 70, 80, even higher an hour. So I go there, and basically, from the very first time I did a job for this woman, she laid out in detail what she wanted me to do, and I did it all. I did everything that we actually discussed, and I did mention in our first conversation, I reckon I'll probably get that done a little bit quicker than you'd think, and I'll probably have time to do these extra tasks. When I actually did the job, it turns out I only had time to do everything discussed. I even put in an extra 30, 45 minutes for free to finish everything we discussed without charging extra. And I didn't do the extra 2 bits I said I'll probably have time to do. So instead of her being like, oh great, thank you for finishing the job well done, thanks for not demanding more money, she was like, oh, but what about those extra couple of jobs? No, and had a big sukkah moan about that. But then she said, oh, I'll give you another chance. I'll give you another chance to prove yourself. So she gave me another chance, even though I did everything she fucking wanted me to do in the first place. Gave me another chance, and everything was fine and kosher, relatively so, for the rest of the year. Came in, I did everything that was outlined, and with this person, I worked full capacity. There's a hedge, and every now and then I trim the hedge back at the back. The hedge has quite a few really thick, sticky bits. And the proper way to go about it, if you don't want to damage your tools, because that's overheads, is you'd use your clippers to actually clip the big bits, the secateurs, clip the big bits, and then come along with your hedge clipper and do all the finer bits, as you're supposed to do. Because you would damage your hedge clipper if you're trying to clip all the really thick, sticky bits. But with this client, there was no time wasted. I had to be as efficient as possible. even if it meant taking a bit of a risk. So I would kill it, and I would do everything as fast as possible, even if it meant potentially damaging my tools. I just clip all of that shit with my hedge clipper, just to get it done as quickly as possible, because there is no way to meet this woman's expectations whilst doing everything properly, because things take time. And most of the time with this client, most of the time with most clients who have these kind of issues, a lot of them don't understand that weeding, pulling out weeds, actually takes time. Alright? If you want to do it properly, you can just pull it up willy-nilly real quick. If you're going to get the roots out, it's just going to grow back, and you're going to spend up more money in the long run to keep getting it removed. So I like to get the root systems out. I think I've got a pretty quick system for doing it myself. So anyway, I did the final job I did for this person. I was 30 minutes late. They insisted I was 45 minutes late, but they just didn't hear me actually at the front of the job setting up my tools and raking the front. I took the wrong turn off on the freeway. It was a hectic morning with my van problems, as you guys would know. A lot of stuff going on at that time. But I got there 30 minutes late, and this chick, once again, she laid out in detail this time, saying, you will spend this much time at the front doing this. Then you will spend the remainder of that time at the back doing this, this, and this. She didn't leave any time in there for a break. She just expected me to work a full 8 hours without break. Didn't account for that. Wanted to be there from this time to that time, and this is where I'm spending my time. Nothing else. So even that was a little bit like, like a little bit fucked, in my opinion, a little bit rude. Anyway, I did everything that was outlined, nonetheless. In time. In less time. She didn't even want me to do an extra 30 minutes to make up for the 30 I lost. I'm like, fine, if that's cool. I thought maybe she had plans. Not sure, because I didn't see it go out. I didn't see anything really change from when I was leaving, but it doesn't matter. But basically, after I did that job, I had a chat with her and said, look, honesty is important to me. I just wanted to say to you that I wasn't trying to rip you off when I said that I was here sooner than you thought. I actually was here at that time. It's even on my phone. You can check. I just want you to know that, because I don't want you to think I'm ripping you off. And she said, no, that's fine. Thank you, Phoenix. I'll pay you tonight. Alright? So anyway, that night came. Didn't get my pay. That's fine. That's ordinary. With this person, I generally had to chase her up quite a few times. A couple of times. And the pay would usually come in sometimes after a week. Because she'd be busy with work and whatever. So it took a few days, and a week passed. And by that point, I'd sent a couple of messages. After a week, I sent an email. After it was all said and done, I sent probably 4 or 5 text messages, 2 emails, made a lot of calls. After 2 weeks had passed, and I hadn't heard word at all. Hadn't heard a single word, not either back to my text message, not to my email, not to my phone call. And I don't care how busy someone is, you have time to do those things, because, I'm fucking busy too, man. You're not the only one. So after 2 weeks, I drove to the property. I went to the neighbor's house just to check, have these people been in, or are they on trip somewhere? And he goes, no, I saw them yesterday. I'm like, cool. Then I went there, because that way they can't be like, oh, sorry, we were on a trip, because that would be lying. Alright, so I went back across the road to where the job was, where the client lives, and I just left a little note on the door because they weren't home, and the note was polite. It wasn't even like, where's my money? It's been 2 weeks now. I was a little bit firm, but I was friendly, and I was like, I'm just worried. I've messaged and I've attempted to contact you for 2 weeks now. I haven't heard a single word back. Please inform me what is happening. And the payment is still yet to be made, So basically that night, all of a sudden, my client is very prompt to respond. And she says, oh, firstly, Phoenix, I have been very busy. I'm working from this time till this time, and I haven't had time. Like, your time is more important than mine. That's okay. I'm so sorry. for working my ass off, potentially damaging my tools, working to the bone, following your word to the T on what you think should be done, regardless of your actual realistic conception of how long shit actually takes. I'm sorry for doing all that and then not getting paid for 2 weeks, and furthermore, not being communicated with for 2 weeks, and then for not even being rude to you in return, but just trying to chase up what the fuck is going on. I'm sorry that I had to drive to your property, well away from my property, to leave a message in your door to ask you what the fuck is going on, because you didn't have the fucking balls or decency to let me know what the fuck was going on well before 2 weeks had passed. I'm sorry it was pressure for you to read those words and made you feel bad because you've been so busy. Alright, and I'm frustrated because shortly after that, I was actually going to drop this client and wasn't going to go back there. I actually wanted to do this video speaking on behalf of all tradies to these kinds of people, these kinds of sharks, these kind of people that think that they can milk tradies, that they can push them and squeeze them and direct them and tell them what they expect things should cost, how long things should take, when they never really done it themselves enough to know, just to end up calling them the shark, just to end up making out that they're the incompetent one, or the disrespectful, or the rude, or the overcharging one. I was going to make this video first, and then just send it as in an email as a link to this person, which I'm doing now. But, she ended up letting me go before I had the chance. And, there was no fucking way I was going to go back there, not after being so disrespected again. She knew the first time around when she wasn't happy with my job, the very first job I ever did for her, I sent her an email saying, I actually felt, a little bit offended by the fact that you think I was a rip-off, that you think I didn't do everything as we discussed, because I did do everything we discussed, and I actually wrote down on the quote, every task I did, how much time I spent on every task, so she could actually see what took what time, you know what I mean? That was the first time. I should have known from then to leave that one the fuck alone. So by the end of it, she ended up sending me an email saying, blah, 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 blah. We will not be seeking your services anymore. Thanks for everything. Adios. Amigos. Which is fine, because, I would rather have a client base that's full of people that actually I enjoy working for. Not slave drivers who don't respect me. They don't give a shit and don't pay you on time. And they make you feel like an asshole for having an issue with that. Yeah? So but I thought it was incredibly rich in this one particular example. Incredibly rich. Firstly, Phoenix. Well, firstly, client, grow a fucking head and use it. Seriously. You can't hire someone's services, they fulfill their contract in less time, and then not pay them for 2 weeks. Not even communicate with them for 2 weeks. That's just rude. That's just bad manners. Weren't you taught manners? Really? And this goes to all the clients out there. All the clients who think they've got more of a clue and have no respect for those that really fucking work hard and try to make ends meet. And you have no idea how much it costs. I don't care what trade the person has, whether it's gardening or whatever else. There are overheads you don't understand, whether it be petrol, whether it be tools breaking down every fucking month that you've got to repair yourself or pay someone else to repair, which once again is more time if you're doing it yourself. Tip fees, the time you spend driving around going to tip, the time you spend doing quotes and shit that don't go anywhere. All this time you're spending, you've actually got to factor it into the hourly price you're charging. Otherwise, you won't get your money back, and it's not going to be worth running the business because it's too much of an investment for what it's making back. That's the basic idea of it. It's really annoying. It's really annoying that such people exist. It's really annoying that such people are in such positions with such bank accounts that they feel so smug enough that they can treat people like this. Like, just because this bitch is up here, she thinks, and I'm a tradie down here, she can treat me how she thinks and what she thinks is fair. That's not fair, man. And if you've done that to anyone, any traders in the past, fuck you. And if you're a tradie who's had that done to you and you've worked your ass off trying to just make them happy and it's futile, I'm sorry, but sometimes it's better off cutting that crap out having less clients. You know, I've got enough clients to get by, and I can always make more. And that's the great thing with working for yourself. You can choose what kind of people you serve. And I hope, just like me, from now on, you make the choice to no longer serve those kind of fuckheads. You know what I'm saying? That's all I gotta say.